Well, thanks again, Carlos, for doing this. First of all, where were you born and raised?
Well, I was born in Sonora, in a little town right in the corner of the Mexican border and the Arizona border. Little town called Luis Sanchez, Sonora, little village.
And what was it like living there at that time?
Oh, it was, as a kid, I didn't really know that we were poor. We had no running water, no electricity, dirt floors. We would pump water out from a pump outside the house, a little shack. My dad worked for a very large landowner in Sonora who grew cotton. And so that's where all the people that worked for him lived on the property. In the property, he grew cotton, so my dad was in charge of irrigation and all that kind of stuff. So there was, my older brother and I, we had a really good time as kids. There was a man-made canal that went all the way around the land where they grew the cotton, for water, for irrigation. So that was like a swimming pool for us, So we jump in because Sonora in the summertime, it's hot. Usually 115 to 120 in the summer, So we would jump in the canal, and go swimming, and then when we got to about 6 years old, we got a little rougher. Then my dad put us to work on the fields with him, and but with my mother was raised here. She came here when she was 6 months old, and she met my dad in some kind of a dance. He used to come here in the Bracero program and work, and then go back to Mexico after, and so. They met, they got married, he took her back to Mexico, and she always wanted to come back, and she kept begging him, that she wanted to come back to the United States. And finally, after, 3 kids, my older brother, myself, and a sister, we moved to Tijuana, where he hired a lawyer to immigrate the family legally. And we spent 3 years in Tijuana, which were pretty rough years. He couldn't find a job in Tijuana, and he ended up, pushing an ice cream cart, those little carts that you push on and selling paletas and all that kind of stuff, and then my brother and I, he on the weekends he'd make us. Well, he didn't make. Well, yeah, he asked us to go out, and he bought us little shoe shine boxes, so we shine shoes. During on the weekends we go out to in the town, and shoe shines were a dime, and he'd ask us to at least bring $2 a piece home, and so. We'd be out there all day long, trying to hustle shoe shines, and so we could come home with $2 and he'd give us a quarter each. And at that time, we're talking about, 50s. A movie was a nickel, and popcorn was a nickel, and candy bar was a nickel. So, we'd hustle and get those $2, come home, and then we'd get to go see a a movie. And so, it was a rough childhood, poor, very poor. But, that's how we lived, and we didn't know there was any difference,
And all that toughness and roughness of life at that time, did that make you and your family and your relationship with your parents, did that make you guys stronger, or did it make things worse?
No, it made us very strong because we had to fight to survive. In fact, a lot of the times my brother and I, found out that at that time there was a park right across the border in Tijuana. As you walk across the border, there was a park there, a huge park, and a lot of military people used to go across to go party in Tijuana. Navy guys, Army guys, Marine guys, and we found out that if you got the shine shoes, one of those guys, sometimes they throw you $5, just because they see you, little kid, all dirty, and they give you shine their shoes. They'd be drunk. They give you $2, $3, $4, $5. So we would go down into downtown, right to the border, to the park. But there was a lot of kids looking for those kind of shoe shines because actually usually we'd go and stand outside of bars, and guys would come out drunk, and they're still. A shoe shine was a dime or a quarter, and they give you a quarter, they give you a dime. But you got one of these military soldiers, American guys, they give you, $2, $3, $5. And sometimes, they would call for a shoe shine, and you have 2 or 3 kids, get there at the same time, and then we just fight it out. Whoever won got the shoe shine, So I think that's where I got my determination, and I've been my whole life I've been very kind of driven. Whenever I set a goal, I don't stop until I reach it. And I think it comes from that because in those days it was like get this shoe shine, get those $2, $3, get this $5, and we go home. I give $2 to my brother, I keep $2, and we go home and we hand it in, and then we'd keep that extra dollar, we'd get that quarter, and then we'd go out and have a really good time. You know.
Well, for a dollar, you could get a lot of 5 cent paletas too.
Yeah, oh yes, but it made us stronger. And then my dad was one of these guys, and he was just really, I mean, not even old school, like ancient school, you know. But it was like, you had to work, and he didn't care, like, how old you were. You had to go out and work and make some money and come home and help the family, So that's how we grew up, and I'm a very loyal person, and I think it comes from that upbringing of families first.
How did that make you as a student in school?
Well, my mother spoke perfect English, because she was raised here. She came when she was 6 months old. She went to Bellflower High School, but I don't know why. Even though she knew she wanted to come back and bring her family back, she never really taught us English, But she always talked about how in America you could, if you worked hard, you could do anything you wanted to, And she always told us that as kids. And so when we finally, my dad finally, we finally got immigration, we got our green card in 1960. We came and we started school. I was almost 11 years old, but they put me in the fourth grade because I didn't speak any English and had a lot of trouble with the language. So I was in the fourth grade with.
How were you like with other kids at that time? Were you pretty good with them, or did you get in a lot of fights?
No. I got in a lot of fights in school in the beginning because when they put us in a school that we got bused to, it was mostly white, but there was also maybe around 20 to 50 Mexican American kids. So now here's Carlos Palomino and Anselmo Palomino. We're from the other side. We were at the bottom of the totem pole. So, they thought they could pick on us, but, my brother and I, we've been through wars in Tijuana, so we're not easy pickings, it didn't take long before they left us alone because, we were not easy targets, we fought like crazy. We came out on top in a lot of those scuffles, so they left us alone. And then, we got befriended by them, and so then, as far as, that went, it was okay, but then we got bused, and we used to go through the white neighborhoods, and I would see these huge houses compared to where we were staying. I mean, even though when we first got to the United States, we moved into Santa Ana. We moved in. My dad had a brother living in Santa Ana working in construction. That's how back in those days, you could not come across unless you had a job already set. Once you made it to the United States. So if you were immigrating, you had to prove that you had a job. Once you got to the United States, so my uncle arranged for a job for my dad in construction. So and we lived with him in his house with his family for about a year before we were able to. My dad was able to rent our own place. But then I would see the difference between the houses and. I would ask my mom, and she would always say, if you work hard, if you go to college, you can have that, But so I saw that, and she always said to work hard. So I had that same mentality I had about getting that shoe shine went into everything else that I've ever done. It's like I knew right away I wanted to go to college, and that's what it took to do better. And I didn't know how that was going to happen because the family grew to 11 once we got to the United States. So there was 11 kids, and my dad always preached that you have to work. When I got to high school, I wanted to play baseball. That's my favorite sport. I love the game, and I got to go out and play one year. I was in varsity my freshman year, and then he made me quit halfway through the season because he wanted me to get a job. He said, you got to work, you got to help. So I quit playing. I quit the team, and I went to I got a job, part-time job. So I worked my whole life, after school. Got a part-time job at a factory during the week. I worked 2-3 hours, and then on the weekends, I worked at a restaurant at night. I washed dishes and waited on tables, whatever they needed me to do. And I knew that it was going to be difficult for me to go to college right out of high school because my dad wanted me to work. So I sat with a counselor. I asked to meet with a counselor, and I asked I asked her, in those days in high school, you had trade, you had, shops. You could go to wood shop, you could go to mechanic shop. You could take a elective that was, that you could, like a training, like
To build a
you
trade,
could have,
yeah.
yeah, trade. So I sat with her and she asked me, "What do you like?" And that's all. I just want to do something that I can make money. So I found out that if I that welding jobs paid really well. So I took 3 years of high school welding. I got out of high school and got a job at a factory welding. A really good job, paid really well as a government certified job because we were welding bombs for Vietnam.
Wow.
So that's how I went. Then I got drafted. I had to go in the army, and that's where I started boxing. My brother had gotten drafted right ahead of me, and once he got out, then they drafted me. So when he got out, I asked him, once I got the letter, I asked him, how hard basic training was, and he told me it's hard. So I decided, I'm going to go try to get a little bit in shape before I go in. And I went to a boxing gym, and that's where I met the guy who eventually became my trainer my whole career, a guy named Noe Cruz. I just walked in, and I was hitting the bags with myself and just jumping around. Because my dad had been a boxing fan his whole life, and we always watched boxing on TV. He used to make my brother and I sit with him and watch fights. So I went to the gym just to get in shape, I was there about a month before this, coach, came up to me, and that was Noe. He said, "You want to box?" And I said, "No, I'm just getting in shape to go in the army." And he said, "Oh, well, you could fight in the army." And I was like, "Really?" I didn't know that. Well, he said, "Yeah, Armando Muniz was training at that same gym, this gym called the Staten Athletic Club, and Armando had boxed in the army. He was already a pro at that time. I think he was about 8, 9, 10 and 0. And so he said, yeah, he pointed him out. He goes, that's Armando Muniz, and he boxed in the army. So, so I talked to Armando. He told me, well, you just gotta go wherever. After you get done basic training, they're gonna send you somewhere, and usually there'll be a boxing tournament. So I did my basic training at Fort Ord up here in San Francisco. They sent me to Fort Hood after, and I got it was just amazing. I got to and before I went in, my trainer Noe said, you should I did some sparring, and they said you should have a fight, at least have one fight before you go in the army. So I said, all right, well, so he calls me up and he says, okay, we're gonna go have a fight. You're not licensed, so we're gonna go to a smoker at Chino Prison. So that's that's where I had my first amateur fight, a non-sanctioned amateur fight against, and it ended up being against one of the inmates.
What was it? What was it like fighting inside a prison?
Oh, it was scary, man, because the guy that I fought was an African American, and he was in the joint, so. And they had, and it was entertainment for the inmates. So it had a really nice little setup, the ring in the middle, and they had these bleachers around the ring. And so one side was all African American, all the other sides were all Latinos, all the Mexican American Latinos, and a few scattered white guy inmates. So we get in the ring, and it starts. The guards have to come out and surround the ring, because there was a Latino and an African American, and the guy was in the joint, so they were like really, and I ended up beating the guy in a 3-round fight, but it was a war. I mean, I almost, after that fight, I almost told Noe that I was going to give it up. I'm not going to do this. It was just too hard, It was too hard.
It's kind of hard.
And I had a headache for a week after that thing.
It's kind of hard to believe that they would do that in a jail fight, or put Latinos against a black.
Yeah,
fighters.
no, they had to surround the ring, the guards, because it was almost a battle outside the ring after the fight.
Yeah, that's what I was getting.
Yeah. So anyway, so then I went in the army. I did my basic training, and then they sent me to Fort Hood. And right as I get there, they're starting the Fort Hood boxing championships. So I asked the coach, what would happen if because at that time Fort Hood was for incoming soldiers that were coming in from Vietnam and for outgoing. So, I figured that I was going to end up in Vietnam as my MOS. I was a welder. The same thing I was doing as a civilian. They gave me that as a job in the army, and so that meant that I'd have to go probably to Vietnam, welding bullet holes. I don't know. So
Was this during the time when it was big news that Muhammad Ali refused to go in?
yeah,
Was this
yeah,
about that time?
exactly, exactly, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is 1970, So I think is that. No, I think it was right. No, I think at that time, yeah, he had refused to go in. I think in '68 or '69,
Yeah, yeah.
and I got drafted in 1970, and so I got a 400 in 1970 after my basic training, and they tell me that if I make Army boxing team, or if I win this tournament, they'll change my orders and they'll make me special services, so I could just box. So I got in the tournament and ended up winning it. Against guys who had 40, 50. One guy we had there was a Southern AAU champion with over 80 amateur fights. So I won that tournament. They sent me to the All Army tournament and ended up winning that. And so for the 2 years that I was in the Army, I had 35 amateur fights. I had 32 and 3. I won the National AAU Championship in 1970. Well, I won the All Army Championship in 70. In 71, 72, I won the All Service Championship in 71, 72. And then I won the National AAU Championship in 72. In fact, I beat Sugar Ray Seals at the end for the National AAU Championship. Right before he went to the Olympic Games, I won a gold medal.
Right.
Yeah, so after, even then, I wasn't really thinking about a professional career. I was thinking about getting back out and going to school on my GI Bill. But then when I won the nationals, I had a lot of people, come talk asking me if I wanted to turn pro. They wanted to be my manager. They wanted to be my trainer. Because the national youth championships were in '72 were in Las Vegas, so I had a lot of people talk to me, and at that point I thought, well, maybe I can turn pro and make a career out of this, do something. And so I went back home, and I went back to Noe Cruz, and I said, I'm going to turn pro. I want you to train me. And so he goes, well, he said, I can train you. He said, but I've never managed a professional fighter. So I said, well, then what do we do? He said, well, we go talk to Jackie McCoy. At that time, Jackie McCoy had like 3 world champions: Mondo Ramos, Val Rojas, Frankie Crawford. And so, he was really interested in managing a young guy. I mean, I was 23, already, because, I had a lot of people told me that it was too late. I didn't start till I was 20. I got drafted when I was 20. That's when I started. And they said, well, it's too late to do anything, Boxing, you got to start a lot younger. So now I'm 23 turning pro, so he wasn't really too interested, He said, well, come on out to a camp, and I had to spar with Mondo Ramos. Mondo Ramos was getting ready to defend the lightweight title against a guy named Trango Carmona. I don't know if you remember that name, yeah. So I went to training camp and sparred with Mondo, and after he saw me spar a couple of times, he said, all right, we'll take a shot at it. So I signed a contract with him. So I was co-managed and co-trained by Noe Cruz and Jackie McCoy. And, nobody was really excited in the beginning because I learned to fight the AAU style, the Olympic style, just throw a lot of punches, no power. I had no knockouts as an amateur, the 35 fights, no knockouts. I just threw a lot of punches. I scored a lot of points. I just threw punches from bell to bell. So, Noe said, you're going to get killed for fighting like that as a pro. So, we started working on changing my style to a pro style. That took time. And so in the first 3 years, I was undefeated, but I had no knockouts. So nobody at the Olympic Auditorium was very excited about me until I lost my first fight. I was 11-0, 11-0 fighting my first 10-rounder against Andy the Hawk Price, who was 18-0, and he was fighting his third or fourth 10-rounder. I lost a split decision, and then after that, Noe and Jackie and I, we sat down, and he said, you're going to have to start going to LA to the gyms to get better sparring, because I I was training in Westminster, my hometown, but we had no pros. I was a bunch of little amateurs, so I didn't really get really hard sparring. I didn't really get because I had a lot of amateurs to work with. So he said, you're going to have to make a move. So from that point on, I started driving into South Central, into the 82nd, into the 80s. It was a gym called the Credible Champions, and that's where most of the champions trained. Mondo Ramos trained there, Raul Rojas trained there, Frankie Crawford, Scrap Iron Johnson, Ted Norton, all these guys, Andy the Hart Price, all these guys trained that gym. So I started driving into L.A. to spar every day,
Is that?
I was going to college at the same time, So I'd get out of school. I had a little part-time job, like 2 hours. I'd do that, and I'd get in the car, drive to South Central, work out, drive back home, have a little bite to eat, and then sit down and do everything I needed to do for the next day for my classes. So it wasn't easy. That's what I wanted, but I started school at the same. I had my first class in September of '72. I had my first pro fight, like 2 weeks after my first class.
And then, it sounds like you were pretty much like a natural. A lot of people saw that gift in you. Would you say you were a natural?
Yeah, I would say that it came very easy to me. It's
like you said earlier, the determination that you had.
Yeah, I had a lot of determination. And then my dad, when I first called him to tell him I was going to continue, my dad loved boxing. To him, there was no other sport. When I was playing baseball, he used to tell me, that's not, the only sport in the world that's a sport is boxing. He used to tell me.
Do you remember what type of boxers he liked, or what guys he liked?
Oh yeah, he loved Ruben Olivares, all the Mexican champions, from the past.
Vicente Saldivar and all those.
Yeah, Vicente Saldivar, all those guys, Mantequilla Nápoles, Alacrán Torres. I don't know if you remember that name. Those guys, So we always watched boxing, and then I had all those street fights as a kid where there was no rules. When I was in the ring, I was like, well, there's a referee and there's rules. This is easy, So, then once I started driving into LA and getting that real sparring, the real pro sparring, then everything just changed. My style changed. Power. I started hitting people and hurting people. And then, all of a sudden things changed at the Olympic, and people got excited up on me. And then, the turning point basically in my career was when I fought Robert Barajas. Robert Barajas was coming off losing a real close fight to the welterweight champion. He was, I think, number 8 in the world, and I had like 18, 19 fights. And I was 19-1. I had one loss. I lost to Andy. And then. The first fight was a draw. It was a war at the Olympic, and then we signed a contract to fight a rematch 6 weeks later, and then I knocked him out in the rematch. And that was a turning point right there. Everybody at that point.
What was it like to fight there at the Olympic Auditorium? What was the crowd like? What was the atmosphere like then?
Oh man, it was amazing, because the Olympic Auditorium was almost sold out almost every week, and the people were just absolutely. I mean, the Mexican fans just, it was like the height of just Southern California for some reason. It was just so many good fighters, It was a war a week. That's what they called Don Chargan, the matchmaker. They called him the war a week Don Chargan, because he put fights on that were just amazing, because there was so much talent in the Southern California area, and the fans would just go crazy,
Wasn't it Thursday night fight night or something like that?
Yeah, Thursday night fights. Yeah. So that it was just an amazing atmosphere, and the fans were so appreciative of what you did in the ring, the job, of the work, of the efforts that they made you feel like you were Michael Jordan.
Yeah, and just the atmosphere and just the history of that place. I mean, there's guys from the 20s, Henry Armstrong, all the way down. All the way down there that had that history there. So it was a big
Sugar Ray Robinson fought there,
Right, Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson, I mean, it was just pretty much Olympic Auditorium and Madison Square Garden, of course, in the East Coast.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it was an amazing. And then once I knocked out Zolek Barajas,
Do you remember what
uh,
a ticket price was about that time?
man, just. I mean, I still have tickets, from some of my fights. I think that when I fought Armando Muniz for my first title defense, I think that ringside was like $30.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
would a
yeah.
lot of those fights sell out like really quick?
Oh yeah, yeah. They were, I sold that out. Armando Muniz. Well, 10 round fight. It held about 12,000 people. And I had a couple. The second fight against Solen Barajas, I think pretty close to selling it out. That was a 10 round fight, but it was just from after the first one, people were like, "God damn, we gotta see this one again." You know.
But nowadays they get a draw, they get a loss, or a few draws or a few losses within the first, let's say, few dozen fights. They just end up quitting. They just kind of say, you know what, I'm not undefeated, I'm no good, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
run.
and I'll tell you something else.
And
Nobody fighting today would fight a war. 10 round war, and then fight 6 weeks later again. Then the ride from there got. I worked as hard as I ever did. I graduated from college in '77, right after I defended against Armando Muniz, first defense. So then things got a little easier as far as my time management because I got out of school, I graduated, I got a BA, and then I had a little more free time to really focus on my training, and so then things just changed. And in 76, I got that title fight in London against John Stracy, and went down there and knocked him out, and then.
what do you remember about your fight with Hedgeman Lewis?
Well, it was a difficult fight because he was a very, very, very slick fight boxer.
Yeah, he gave Napoles a
Yeah,
pretty good run for
yeah,
his money.
he had given Jose Napoles, two great fights. He was very slick, very quick, and so yeah, I knew it was going to be a difficult fight, and I was going to have to put a lot of pressure on him to try to wear him down and work hard on a body attack. And that's what I did, and I was coming on, it was just 10 rounds, so it's just like too short. So that was a draw, and that's how I ended up getting the title fight. So everything worked out for a reason, I guess. I mean, when you think about destiny and what you get a lot.
And for your first fight with Mando Muniz, and you guys were in the ring there, who were most of the crowd going for, knowing that maybe you were considered a crossover because you had started fighting out of here and all that, and he was from Mexico? Did people go for him more because of that?
No, but I don't know, but I know he was a favorite, and he's a favorite for the crowd, and he was also favored by the odds makers. But I don't know whether he was favored by the crowd because people knew that I was also from Mexico, but I think that he had kind of a sympathy vote because he had gotten robbed so badly by that fight against Montequilla, the first one. So yeah, I think people were looking for him to win the title, and get that blemish off. That pain that he had because that really hurt the Mondo. Mondo and I are very good friends now, and that really really hurt him.
Yeah, like they say, La Espina.
Yeah, yeah. So so they he was favored by the fans, and it was I don't know if you ever seen that fight, but
What about your fight with Jose Palacios? Do you remember that one?
that was a hard fight too. That was a strong. He had gone 15 rounds with with
With Pepino Cuevas?
with Filipino Cuevas in Mexico for the Mexican national title. So I knew that wasn't going to be an easy fight. Strong, hard, wiry kind of guy. Real tall. I found it easy to hit him. I found it. He threw very wide punches, and I stayed inside all that stuff, and I was able to knock him out in I think the 13th round.
And I think something you had that a lot of people, especially the Mexican fighters, a lot of them are brawlers. What you had is you had like this beautiful technique. It was more like a technician
Yeah.
or a surgeon type technique to your thing, kind of like Alexis Arguello, kind of like that. I mean,
Yeah, I worked really hard on that with Noe Cruz and Jackie McCoy. When he told me in the beginning that I was going to get killed as an amateur, as a pro fighter in the way I was fighting, we took, I took that very seriously. So we worked really really hard and that's on technique, and that's the thing that I have. I had a lot of respect for Noe Cruz, my trainer. I mean, he never fought pro, but he fought in the Navy. But he really was able to perfect the style in which he taught. He was a real teacher. All the kids that he was with hundreds of young kids, you know. But unfortunately, I was his first pro. I was his first guy to turn pro, and then win a world title. So, you know, it was he thought maybe he was going to have three or four more, but you know, I was the only one, you know, that he got lucky with. And I mean, technique wise, he was really really a master at teaching technique. And we worked on that stuff really really hard in long hours in the gym.
And what I notice about a lot of people that have great precision technique like you, I always think the first thing of how they train. I always say to myself, I bet they use a double end bag. Why don't they use
Oh
that as much
yeah,
anymore?
yeah. I use a double end, hundreds of rounds on a double end bag. I used to hate to hit. I used to hate the speed bag, but I used to love just to go round after round after round on the double end bag. You know, because that to me that's what you know. That to me that was like trying to find a guy to do when you're in the ring. You try to hit a guy in the head. That speed bag is really really perfects the hand and eye coordination. You know, for that. You know, so I hit that bag hundreds of rounds.
And your fight there with Wando Muniz, the first one, won in '77. That was considered 1977 best fight of the year.
Yeah, that was fight of the year. Yeah, yeah,
What do
yeah,
you, what do
yeah.
you think of that, or how, did you get presented with a trophy or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah, I got a beautiful trophy that I actually just gave. You know, I'm 62 now, so I got all this stuff, and I have it all in storage because my wife is like, we're not gonna put all that stuff up. It's too much, you know. So I just started giving stuff to my kids, and I have three kids of my own. I mean, I have five grandchildren. So I just last year for Christmas I gave the Fighter of the Year award trophy to my son, who's my oldest, so he's 40, and then I gave some other stuff to my two daughters, and so I'm just kind of starting to hand this kind of stuff out. Hopefully, it'll save the family. I keep getting calls like I want to sell stuff. I tell people I'm not looking to do that. I don't. They could be if they want to sell, they can sell it after I'm gone. But I'm leaving this stuff to my family.
And of course, you get the rematch with Muniz. You beat him in a decision.
Yeah.
After that, you decide to go ahead and go to Puerto Rico and fight with Benitez, which was the
I was
youngest
forced
ever.
to. I really didn't want to go. I was forced. WBC said I had to go fight him in Puerto Rico because the fight was supposed to be put up for bid. And Puerto Rico bid the highest. I got $500,000 for that fight. So it was the largest bid. So that's why. And then I actually, my manager and I talked about it, Joe Noe and Jackie, and we actually asked them to, we said, well, take half of that money. Let's make the fight in a neutral place. I said, Little Vegas, even New York, which is like, second home for Wilfredo, and no, they said no, you have to go to Puerto Rico. I knew going there it was going to be hard to win the decision. So, I chased him for 15 rounds. I thought I, won the fight easy, but they gave him a split decision.
No, yeah, to get a split decision in his backyard, that
yeah,
kind of tells us something that maybe there's something going on there because it was so close and like I said, you had a split decision. In other words, there was a judge that had it for you. So
and I think there was a lot of stuff that went on that I feel like there was no way I was going to win unless I knocked him out. I see that fight. He didn't really do much except throw some. He threw single punches. He threw he threw jabs, and once in a while when I had him on the ropes, he'd go off on like shoe shine kind of patty punches, but nothing really landed. And I was hitting him with a lot of body shots in the inside and uppercuts up the middle, and I guess none of that counted because I went back to the corner after the 15th round, and I looked at Jackie, and he said, listen, we won the fight, but we've had a good run. That's what he said. I said, what do you mean? I said, we're not. He's like, we're not going to get it here, and and he was right.
What was it like going in the ring in that atmosphere in Puerto Rico for you?
To me, a ring was a ring. Once I stepped into the ring, I was so focused on what I had to do. I didn't really feel or hear or
kind of blanked everything out. Yeah.
I had to blank everything out. But the ring, I saw right away. I walked out. It was outdoors in a baseball stadium. The humidity was like in the 90s in Puerto Rico, and and they had a canopy over the ring. And I'm in the sun. My corner is in the sun, and he's in the shade. so, that right away. I lost 14 pounds in that fight. It's all water weight.
And then your next fight up, you fight the great Roberto Duran. I mean, you fought Mando Muniz, then you fight Benitez and Duran back to back, and they're all Hall of Fame status.
Yeah, but I wanted a rematch, but then I couldn't get it. And they promised me a rematch, but then once it was time for the rematch, I couldn't get it. He went out and fought this guy from New York. Can't think of his name now. And then he took the fight with Sugar Ray. And I knew I wasn't gonna get a rematch, so they offered the fight with Duran, and I told Jack, my manager, well, listen, this is almost as good as because I wanted to retire with the title. That was one of my goals. My goals were to win a world title, to get my college degree, and to retire with the title. And so I wanted that title back, but I couldn't get it. So I told Jack, well, I went over Roberto Duran. It's almost as good as retiring with the title, and I thought I could beat him. He was a lightweight. He had just moved up to welterweight, and I'd seen him in a couple of welterweight fights. He hadn't looked that good, I thought, nah. I said, take the fight, and it was a 10-round. Well, actually, initially they told us it was to be a 12-round elimination title fight, and the winner would get a title fight with Benitez. And I complained about that. I said, why do I have to fight an elimination title fight? And then like 2 weeks before the fight, Jackie comes to my room in New York. I was in New York already. He said, well, it's a 10-round fight. I need to just sign to fight Ray Leonard, so there's not going to be it's not an elimination fight anymore. So that kind of took the wind out of my sails, but I still had to think about Roberto Duran. He just out hustled me. He was quicker than I thought he was going to be. And he in the fights that I had seen him, prior to my fight, he had fought at welterweight and over the welterweight limit. So he hadn't looked that good, He looked soft. He looked, but he won the fight, and then he got ready for my fight. I mean, he was 145 pounds, and he was just quick. I didn't feel like there was a lot of power. He wasn't able to hurt me. I mean, I had a flash knockdown in the fight, but I was never really hurt. So. But the quickness really surprised me, and then he's one of the best. It's not the best to me that I fought as far as not only aggression but also boxing ability, because he could, he boxed. He moved in and out. He used a lot of angles. He used a lot of feints. He was an amazing boxer. Most people thought of him as a brawler, and he wasn't. He's just a tremendous boxer. Well, he knew all the tricks. I mean, I got thumbed 3 times in that fight. He knew all the tricks, so I wouldn't say he was a dirty fighter. He knew all the tricks, and he did whatever it took to win. And he was ruthless in a way that I wouldn't describe it as being dirty, but I would describe it as being just really mean, and really angry in the ring, Like control anger, See, that's the thing that I expected, because I remember when he in the Sugar Ray Leonard Award, other fights before. In fact, before I fought him, he fought another guy that was managed by Jackie McCoy, my manager. They fought in New York. They fought at 140 pounds. So this guy, I can't think of his name now. He was from. I used to spar with him a lot of times. We trained at the Credible Champions Gym. The African American fighter, and he knocked him out, in the 8th or 9th round. But before the fight, when he came back, he told him, man, he's an asshole. He was calling me all kinds of names and saying he's gonna do this and that. Well, he talked a lot of trash, But so I expected that, and I told my manager, listen, man, if he starts with any of that stuff at the weigh-in, it's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna let it happen. And so, no, man, when we got to the weigh-in, our first press conference we did. He came up to me, shook my hand, said he had a lot of respect for me. I was a great champion, and that's how it was, and that's how it is now. Every time we see each other, big embrace, big hug. In fact, I just, I'm not really, the new technologist, but I just got on Facebook and somebody told me I needed to be on it. And so I got, his daughter sent me a picture of him. He's doing really well. He's in Panama. He's got a gym and a lot of fighters, and I guess he has a couple of restaurants, so he's really busy. So, I was glad to hear that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And after that, you stopped fighting for a bit. But in 1980, I remember along with you, of course, one of my favorite fighters also was Salvador Sanchez. And I remember you did the commentary for, I believe, him.
Yeah.
Gomez, right?
I'm still doing commentary. In fact, I'm doing a fight tonight here in LA. I did a lot of stuff. I did a fight. I did a lot of fights for Don King. I worked for HBO. I worked for Showtime.
What was it like for that Sanchez fight? And you even interviewed him after the fight.
It was amazing because I had also, I had traveled with him on the press conference tour, and Gomez had really, really talked a lot of trash through the whole process on every interview because I would stand between them. They would ask questions, and then I would translate it and translate it back to the press. And Gomez talked a lot of trash, and Salvador was really humble. Just always, it was, I'm working really hard and I'm going to be ready, that kind of stuff, and before the fight in Vegas, I talked to Salvador and I said, are you tired of all this trash this guy's been talking? And he said, yeah. He goes, but you know what? He goes, I'm not going to knock him out. I'm going to hurt him. And I said, oh, wow. I was like, and I was working with a Colonel Sheridan. I don't know if you know who he is. He does a lot of fights. Bob Sheridan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was with him, and I told him the story, and he goes, "Oh, well, let's see this." Right? Like in the second round, I don't know, the third or fourth round, he dropped him, and it looked to me like Gomez was out, and he got up, but he was stumbling around. And if you see the fight, you'll notice that Salvador just let him. He let him get back in the fight. He let him recover. He did not go in for the finish. Yeah. And then once
it looked like he kind of carried him there for a bit.
Yeah, he carried him until he recovered, and then he started popping him, and he just did that until finally, the guy couldn't take it anymore. Whatever round it was, I don't remember the round that he was knocked out, but he got punished in that fight, and it was because
I was
all the
talking
trash he talked.
And just to let you know, Ruben, I think I might have put it in the interview there on my page. But while I was interviewing him, he was bringing up the fighters that he respected or liked the most, and he brought your name up. And then he goes, "Look, Carlos is a guy. He was a great boxer. He was a great boxer. He went to the military. He did this and that, and then he marries a white girl too. Man, don't tell me that's somebody that you can't look up to. He said,
well, he's crazy. He always tells that story." And even one time, we were a celebrity golf tournament, and they for some reason they asked him. We were in Palm Springs. They asked him to come up and say a couple of words, and I'm sitting there with my wife and my father-in-law, and he tells that story.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you're about to get your butt kicked.
But thank you for doing this, Carlos.
All right, man.
And thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Take care.